Pastor Gary Seyfried. Along with my wife, I've been a member here at St. John's for 8 years. I last served a church in Greenville, South Carolina, the Lutheran Church of Our Savior. I was there for 28 years. So I've been a Lutheran pastor for a long time. One day my wife decided she was going to do house cleaning, which is not to say she doesn't do that often, but this particular day she was going to do the whole day working in the house. When I got home that evening, she was beside herself because she could not find her diamond engagement ring. You've been there. You know how it feels when you lose something that you value. Well, she was in tears, and we began to search the house, looking in every nook and cranny where she had been working. Well, when we retraced her steps, we could not find the ring. I went upstairs, and I thought, well, I'll look upstairs. Maybe you went up there. And while I was there, she yelled out, I found it, I found it. And so I ran down the stairs, and I said, where did you find it? And she said, well, I had forgotten that when I started house cleaning, I took the ring off my hand and put it on the other hand. I never thought to look at the other hand. Now, so you won't think I'm picking on Brenda, I have a story also about losing something that I cherished. When I write icons or paint them, I remove my rings. And one day after working on an icon, I began to clean up my studio, and I could not find my wedding band. In my desperation, I yelled to Brenda, and she came in, and I said, I have lost my wedding band. And so we searched my studio and could not find it. That night, as I prepared for bed, I found my ring in my shirt pocket that I had worn that day. The panic and the fear of losing my wedding band was real terror for me. So as you might have imagined, today's key word is lost. In my preaching and teaching, I often emphasize that we are our stories. Our life stories and events make us who we are. I can imagine that right now you're thinking of stories that change your life, of the people or the events, wonderful memories or some that may be painful. But your stories are part of you, just as mine are part of me. A major part of Jesus' teachings and ministry included parables. Parables are earthly stories that have heavenly meanings. Jesus used them to teach great truths about human life and about God's relationship to us. Luke's story begins with an introduction in which tax collectors and sinners were gathering near to listen to him. The Pharisees and scribes murmured among, I love that word murmuring. You can just hear they were murmuring among themselves about Jesus was too welcoming to sinners, and that not only that, but he ate with them as well. So Jesus, observing his audience, tells them a series of stories or parables. All have a sense of lostness at their center. The lost sheep, the lost coin, the lost son. Prominently displayed above the pulpit here at St. John's Lutheran Church, there's a stained glass window that centers in Jesus, the Good Shepherd. In this parable, a shepherd owns 100 sheep when one wanders away and becomes lost. Jesus says the shepherd left the 99 in the wilderness and began to search for the one that was lost. The shepherd's flock was diminished by the one lost sheep. The window depicts Jesus, who, after searching for and finding the lost sheep, lovingly and thankfully cradles it in his arms and brings it back into the fold. Jesus says that the shepherd, when he found it, lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. And then in his joy, he calls his friends and neighbors to celebrate with him. Now, isn't that what we do each Sunday as we gather for word and sacrament? We confess that we are not as we should be, that we have strayed away from our shepherd, and then we rejoice that we have been welcomed back into the fold. Jesus consistently taught by word and action that he came into the world to lovingly claim those that the world often labels as lost. And if that didn't get the attention of the Pharisees, then Jesus tells another parable. This time he talks about a woman who had discovered that she had lost one of the 10 silver coins that she wore prominently and daily on her forehead. So in her panic, she called her neighbors to help her search for it, desperately sweeping every nook and cranny in her house. Was she so poor that her livelihood depended on that one coin? According to the tradition of her day, her identity was symbolized by the completeness of her headband, not her earthly worth. They identified her as the wife of her husband, and this was important in the society of that day. Just as the center of our lives, we find the water of our baptism that washes us and identifies us as a child of God. And just as on Ash Wednesday, we were marked on our foreheads with the cross of our new Lenten season, reminding us that Jesus literally loved us to death. So lost, found, rejoicing. But notice this, the sheep was being a sheep. The coin was being a coin, each of them of value to their owners. Now in the last parable of Jesus, a son selfishly decided to leave home, and he went to his father and he had the audacity to ask his dad for his inheritance. Well, the father's not even dead yet, and yet he wants his inheritance. The son was a thinking, feeling, rational, we hope, human being. He made the decision to leave his father's household and the gift of his father's daily loving presence. And in that relationship, he was not required to work for it, to purchase it, or to win it, only to receive it as a gift from his Father. And that we call grace. You can't win it, you can't buy it, you can't earn it. It is a gift to be given. In these three brief Jesus stories, the central meaning is not found only in the lost sheep, but in the loving shepherd. Not only in the lost coin, but in the gracious finding. Not only in the son's sinning, but in the loving welcome of the Father. In our baptismal waters, we were marked with the cross of Christ. And there we were claimed, found, and welcomed home.